Some are calling this the most horrific fraternity hazing ever in the United States. This is how one night at university can destroy your life forever. Danny Santulli was 18 years old and a freshman at the Uni of Missouri. In October 2021, Danny was captured on CCTV being blindfolded and led downstairs in an event named Pledge Dad Reveal Night. Danny was made to drink a litre of straight vodka by himself. At around 10:55, Danny collapsed and some of the frat members were seen carrying him to a sofa. Around midnight, Danny was captured on cameras sliding off the sofa, and shortly after he was found unconscious with blue lips. Shockingly, instead of calling an ambulance for Danny, the frat members piled him into a car, dropping him on the way. They drove him to hospital, but at this point he was already in cardiac arrest. Danny had to be resuscitated and spent the next 6 weeks in intensive care. Prior to this evening, Danny had been left needing stitches and crutches after he'd been forced to climb inside of a bin with broken glass inside. 2 nights before the night in question, Danny broke down in tears on the phone to his sister and told her about how stressed he felt about it all. His family had begged him to quit the pledge, but he didn't want to be ridiculed. This is Danny now. He will need full-time care for the rest of his life. He's now severely brain damaged, is blind, and cannot walk or talk. 2 former students are set to go to trial over this case.
Normal-looking photos that have a disturbing backstory, Part 28. While this appears to be a book with typical wear and tear, the damage at the bottom is from a bullet hole. The math book belongs to 10-year-old Uzziah Garcia, who along with 18 other students died in the Robb Elementary School shooting that occurred just a few months ago. This mirror selfie shows Giovanni Bezerra, a Brazilian anesthetist, who was arrested after assaulting a pregnant woman during her C-section. He heavily sedated her and placed his private part in her mouth for 10 minutes, and is seen in a hidden camera wiping her face with gauze after he was done. This photo shows a group of US airmen who were taken as prisoners of war by Japanese soldiers in 1945. 8 of the 11 men were dissected while they were still alive, and the 3 others were placed in custody. This photo shows Michael and Susan Kuhnhausen after being married for 18 years. In 2006, Michael hired a hitman to kill his wife. However, Susan choked the man with her bare hands, saying, "Tell me who sent you here, and I'll call you an ambulance."
People are being poisoned in ways you would never guess. In August of this year, Erin Mims was celebrating her birthday with her husband at a Houston restaurant, and after returning to her car, she noticed a napkin on the door handle. When Erin saw the napkin, she thought that her husband was playing a prank on her. She didn't really think much of it, so she grabbed the napkin and threw it out and asked her husband if he had put the napkin on the door handle, and he said no. That's when Erin went back into the restaurant to wash her hands. Shortly after returning to the car, Erin began to feel a tingling sensation on her fingers, and after 5 minutes, her whole arm began to feel numb. Erin says she was having trouble breathing, she got hot flashes, and her heart began to beat really fast. Erin was quickly taken to the hospital, and after doing some tests, they told her that her vitals were all over the place. The doctor told her that it was an acute poisoning from an unknown substance, and the napkin situation may have been an attempted kidnapping.
Breaking news, Aiden Fucci was just sentenced to life in prison for the murder of 13-year-old Tristan Bailey.
114 stab wounds, 49 defensive wounds, 35 wounds to the head and neck, 29 to the back and shoulder, and 6 fatal wounds. This court has reviewed and seen more than its fair share of autopsy photos. The autopsy photos in this particular case were particularly difficult. The 49 defensive wounds indicate that Tristan Bailey was conscious, that she was aware, and that she was doing everything she could to fend off this attack. She suffered a painful, horrifying death from someone that she trusted. Her screams were most likely stifled by her own suffocating lungs. He lured her into a secluded place in the woods near his home, a person that she trusted, and he led her there under false pretenses. There was a heightened level of premeditation in this case. Based on the prior statements that he made to his girlfriend and his friend, he indicated that he was going to kill someone. At which point he determined that it was going to be Tristan Bailey, I don't know. But there was going to be a victim. He indicated that how he was going to do it, that he would take them into a wooded place, that he would stab them, he would kill them and then run away so that he could keep on killing. He told his best friend that he wanted to kill someone to see what it felt like, and he wanted to watch them bleed out. This particular crime was committed with the weapon of choice as a knife, which he nicknamed Poker. That required a up-close, personal, type of murder that is rare. Mr. Fucci, having entered a plea of guilty to the crime of first-degree murder, I adjudicate you guilty of the premeditated first-degree murder of Tristan Bailey. I sentence you to life in prison.
Heavenly Arroyo was a 15-year-old girl who murdered 68-year-old Ana Vazquez Rodriguez on October 6, 2019 in Fall River, Massachusetts. Arroyo was living with her great-uncle and his girlfriend at the time, and the victim was the mother of the great-uncle's girlfriend. Arroyo's great-uncle was planning on taking a trip to New York to obtain legal documents in order to help him and his girlfriend legally gain custody of Arroyo, who was known as a troubled teen. The trip was delayed due to car problems, and as the day progressed, Arroyo became more agitated and impatient. In the late afternoon, Arroyo grabbed a pair of scissors from the kitchen and went into the victim's bedroom and stabbed her 70 times. The victim was unable to defend herself due to being bedridden after suffering from a stroke. Arroyo then showered and disposed of the clothes in a nearby dumpster. The only other person who was home at the time was the victim's grandson, who Arroyo told that his grandmother wasn't feeling well, and when he went to check on her, he immediately called 911. When the police arrived, Arroyo claimed that she was outside with the dog, but she did witness a masked man running from the house. But while she was in custody, she made a series of inculpatory, spontaneous admissions. On January 18, 2023, Arroyo, who is now 18 years old, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 19 years.
This is why you should take stalking extremely seriously. In 2016, Molly McLaren met Joshua Stimpson on Tinder and the pair began dating. At first things were going fine, but after several months things started to get a little weird. Molly started expressing concerns over Joshua's behaviour. He was becoming more and more controlling as time went on, and in 2017, Molly decided to end the relationship. However, Josh was really persistent and kept begging her to take him back, so she eventually did. But again, she saw no real change in his behaviour. He was still being just as controlling as ever, so she ended the relationship for good. At this point, Joshua started taking his anger out on Molly on Facebook statuses. He would write statuses that just made Molly feel really uneasy. Molly actually ended up feeling so concerned that she did contact the police about his behaviour. In June, Molly went to her local gym and noticed that Joshua had turned up just minutes later. Molly found this really unsettling as she hadn't posted on any social media that she was heading there, so she didn't know how he would know she was there. He just started silently working out next to her, which just made her feel so uncomfortable. When he eventually left, Molly felt safe to leave and head to her car. However, in a shocking turn of events, Joshua actually followed her to her car, drove up behind her and started attacking her in broad daylight. People tried to intervene, but it was unfortunately too late. He did try to plead not guilty, but was sentenced to 26 years in prison.
This is why you should never spend the night on Niku Island. In 1937, while on her flight around the world, Amelia Earhart mysteriously vanished over Howland Island in the Pacific Ocean. Despite an enormous search, she was never found. 3 years after her disappearance, a scientist discovered an incomplete skeleton on this tiny, uninhabited island called Niku Island that wasn't too far from Howland Island. It looked like whoever's bones these were, they had been ripped limb from limb. But when the bones were examined, they determined they were not Amelia Earhart's. But in 2017, a forensic anthropologist re-examined the bones and determined they were almost definitely Amelia's. So scientists went to Niku Island and they found freckle cream, something Amelia was famous for using. So the working theory is she crash landed on Niku Island and she fell asleep somewhere on the beach. Then, after smelling her blood, hundreds of 3-foot wide coconut crabs came out of their burrows, swarmed her, and ate her.
How many of you guys remember this girl? She went absolutely viral in 2020 for making faces in court. But before we get into her story, my name is Ashley, and if you guys like crime, creepy, and unbelievable stories, check out my YouTube channel or my TikTok for more content. So this girl's name is Isabella Guzman, and in 2013, she fatally stabbed her mother over 79 times. The video that went viral was actually from 2013, but somehow it took 7-8 years for it to reach mass audience. So initially, Isabella was quite young when she started exhibiting a lot of behavioral issues. She was living with her mother at the time, but when she was 7 years old, she was sent to live with her father. After a few years went by, her father then sent her to go live with her mother again when she was a teenager. And in August of 2013, the relationship between Isabella and her mother quickly deteriorated. They were fighting quite often, and on August 27th, they had an argument that ended with Isabella spitting in her mother's face. The following morning, Isabella's mother received an email saying, "You will pay." Obviously, she was terrified and didn't know what else to do with her daughter, so she called the police. The police arrived to her home and then talked to Isabella, telling her that if she didn't straighten up, that her mother could legally kick her out of the house. Isabella's mother then called her biological father to come talk to Isabella. He came over to their house and had a long talk with her in the backyard, talking to her about respect. According to him, he thought that they had made a lot of progress, but then a few hours later, everything changed. August 28, 2013, around 9:30 p.m., Isabella's mother, Yeonmi Hoi, arrived home. Told her husband she was going to head upstairs and take a shower. That's when her husband hears these awful screams coming from upstairs. Obviously, he runs upstairs to see what's wrong, and when he gets to the bathroom, he sees Isabella slamming the bathroom door shut, locking herself and her mother in the bathroom. He tried as hard as he could to get that door open, but it was locked. All he heard was screaming and an obvious struggle going on. Then he saw blood seeping through the bottom of the door and called 911. Then, as the door was opening, he heard his wife say the word Jehovah, and then Isabella walked out of the bathroom with a bloody knife. Apparently, Isabella didn't say a single thing, just stared at him and walked away like nothing had happened. Runs into the bathroom to check on his wife when he discovers that she had been brutally stabbed 79 times. Unfortunately, she passed away. By the time police arrived, Isabella had run away from the home, but police quickly found her the following day, hiding in a nearby parking garage. On September 5, 2013, Isabella was brought into court for the first time, and that's where we see the video of her making all these faces. We'd later find out that Isabella was actually suffering from schizophrenia and had delusions for years. According to her, she didn't remember that she was stabbing her mother. She thought that she was stabbing a woman named Cecilia in order to save the world. The judge accepted her plea of mental insanity and sentenced her to a mental facility. In June 2021, Isabella was given permission to leave the hospital for her therapy sessions. She has expressed remorse for what happened, but also said that her mother was extremely abusive towards her.
"114 stab wounds, 49 defensive wounds, 35 wounds to the head and neck, 29 to the back and shoulder, and 6 fatal wounds." This court has reviewed and seen more than its fair share of autopsy photos. The autopsy photos in this particular case were particularly difficult. The 49 defensive wounds indicate that Tristan Bailey was conscious, that she was aware, and that she was doing everything she could to fend off this attack. She suffered a painful, horrifying death from someone that she trusted. Her screams were most likely stifled by her own suffocating lungs. He lured her into a secluded place in the woods near his home, a person that she trusted, and he led her there under false pretenses. There was a heightened level of premeditation in this case. Based on the prior statements that he made to his girlfriend and his friend, he indicated that he was going to kill someone. At which point he determined that it was going to be Tristan Bailey, I don't know. But there was going to be a victim. He indicated that how he was going to do it, that he would take them into a wooded place, that he would stab them, he would kill them and then run away so that he could keep on killing. He told his best friend that he wanted to kill someone to see what it felt like, and he wanted to watch them bleed out. This particular crime was committed with the weapon of choice as a knife, which he nicknamed Poker. That required a up-close, personal, type of murder that is rare. It's unique. The court accepts that in 2019, of all juvenile arrests, only 7% were violent and only 1% of those were homicides. This crime is clearly an outlier, and it was shocking, and it is shocking to the conscious. This court finds that the defendant's participation in this offense was not the result of immaturity or impetuosity. He understood the risks and consequences of his actions. He previously told his girlfriend that he was going to do this. That clearly shows that he had been planning it. He attempted to cover it up by disposing of the murder weapon and throwing it into a lake. He then attempted to conceal evidence by hiding his shoes and shirt and jeans, taking a shower, stealthily entering his home, and then the actions immediately after with the Snapchat videos in the back of the police car and the story that he made up about pushing her and her hitting her head, which was clearly refuted by the video evidence in this case. All of that shows, and this court finds, that this was not an immature or an impetuous type of crime. It makes it unique. It makes it extraordinary. What is also very troubling is that this crime had no motive. This was not done out of greed. It was not done in retaliation, retribution, or revenge. It was not a crime of passion. It was not a crime that was committed because he felt rejected by her. It was not done in a fit of uncontrollable anger. There was no reason. There was no purpose. It was done for no other reason than to satisfy this defendant's internal desire to feel what it was like to kill someone. It was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense for moral or legal justification, and it was heinous, atrocious, and cruel. This factor and this factor alone makes this case and this defendant more than just unique. It is for this reason and all of the reasons previously stated that leads this court to the conclusion that there is only one appropriate sentence in this case. Mr. Fucci, if you and your attorneys would please rise. Counsel, is there any legal reason why this court cannot impose sentence at this time?
No, sir.
Mr. Fucci, having entered a plea of guilty to the crime of first-degree murder, I adjudicate you guilty of the premeditated first-degree murder of Tristan Bailey. I sentence you to life in prison. Because of your age, you are eligible for review of the sentence in 25 years. I order the Department of Corrections to notify you when you are eligible to apply for your review hearing. Madam Clerk, if you will please impose the minimum fines and court costs. Mr. Fucci, you have 30 days to appeal the legality of this court's sentence. If you wish to appeal but cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. You will be taken back to the Duval County Jail and then transported into the Florida State Prison System. We are adjourned.